Hey guys, what's going on? This is Brad from the Ed Army, and today we have a very quick, or at least I have a very quick, my Greymon deck profile for, at least currently, the post BT14 set. And obviously, the EX5 is about to come out, so this will change a little, but hey, this is what I've been working with, and I hope it helps you guys out. So, obviously, like, comment, and subscribe, and join the Ed Army. I need you guys. Let's get it bigger, and let's do it together. So, we're going to start off with the eggs, because honestly, it depends on what you're facing. So I decided to opt in for 4 copies of BT5 Koromon. And actually running the 5th egg, I'm running the 1 copy of the BT9 Koromon that gives you 1000 DP. When you have an Agumon or a Greymon on your turn, you get 1000 DP. Effectively, the draw power is the most important one. I decided to play the 5th egg because if you do run into the vaccine matchup or security control, you do want an extra egg just in case, because it can come up. And a lot of times I find myself needing to use the Koromon egg a little bit more than I expected, usually thanks to the new War Greymon released in BT14. That one allows you to effectively swing over the opponent's Digimon with its raid, but sometimes if you do the warping effect, you won't have as much of a DP threshold as you'd like. Unless you have the BT14 Agumon or one of the other Agumons underneath, the DP isn't really that high, so getting that extra 1000 can make the difference sometimes. So I'm just running those 4, obviously the additional 1 for 5, and it's been working out. I only see it sometimes, and it's never really a hindrance when I see it because the DP can be useful. So just keep that in mind. Starting off with the rookies, I'm probably running 14, so I'm starting off with 4 copies of the BT or BT12. This is Agumon. Obviously, across times, Agumon is just too good to not play. I think it's one of the ones you can't really pass up based solely on the fact of how useful it is. Because you can grab Tai, because you can grab Omnimon or Greymon. It's just really good. And then the all turns effect with the Black Tai from BT 12, it's just really good because you get the synergy for your blocking. And it's just a useful card. Overall, I think it's the best Agumon, period. So at some point, I could see them maybe banning or limiting it to some degree because there's no other reason to really play any other Tai or play any other Agumon because it just does so much. So just putting it out there. Next, we actually have 4 copies of BT14's Agumon. I did make a video about this. Currently, I only have the 3. I had a 4th one. I'm getting a 4th one. Different story for a different time. Point is, it didn't come. So right now, I'm just proxying it with a copy of the Agumon from the structure deck, the black one. So makes it easier if I have to proxy anything. Point is, it's really good. You get a 0 evil cost on any Koromon. You also are able to effectively Digivolve this for free at the start of your main phase if you have Tai in play. You also get 2000 DP for Greymons and Omnimons on your turn. There's not much to say about it. It's just really useful. It helps power creep, at least in my opinion, some of the other Agumons based solely on the fact that it's so useful. It's almost hard to not want to run it. So we have that. Next is going to be 4 copies of Agumon X. Honestly, it looks standard to most people's list because I think everybody runs about the same thing because you want to boast your consistency. And Agumon X is the way to go. 4 of them. Reveal the top 3. Get Omnimon, get Greymon, get X Antibody. Funny enough, I'm not playing X Antibody right now. Some people might think I'm crazy for that, but I'm not. I'll explain later why, but hey, I've been working with it. It's just a free Evo in the back if you need it, but also just really good to get on top and search for pieces. So there you go. And to round out my rookies, I decided to play 2 copies of BT5's Agumon. This one, I really, be honest, I didn't want to play it, but I had to think about it hard. It was either this or the BT12 Agumon that's red-yellow that can search for Greymon pieces. Since I'm not playing Marcus at all, that wasn't as useful. And this one can get a double hit because I am playing Omni-One. I would obviously switch it up if there's a better searcher. I decided to go with this just because it's useful. And yeah, pretty much I'm just running as an additional search. Sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't. Its biggest benefit is running it alongside the new or the tie from BT12. You can make your Agumons blockers, and if you hard play that and then you have the tie, making it a blocker just to be a rookie blocker can help. So that's what I've got for rookies. Moving into champions, I have a pretty standard line. I think I'm playing a little bit more champions than most people would like to. So you'll see, you guys will see in a second. Starting off, I have 4 copies of the starter deck Greymon. This is the one from the reprint set in RB01. I was a proponent that you didn't have to play this, and I was a bigger fan of playing the BT5 Greymon. I can't lie, guys. I really like having this. It closes games faster. It just gets you there. And frankly, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to run 4. It just accelerates the game so much. And because of the Agumon and Tai's interaction, digivolving this for free really does benefit, because the moment you go into an ultimate, you've already digivolved for this for free. So sometimes you can be cheeky and swing with like Metal Greymon X and then do a lot of security checks. This one's just really good. You can't really pass it up. 3 copies of Greymon from BT12. This one is debatable. I know most people only play like maybe even 1 or 2 of them. I really like playing 3. Into the times that I do brick, and that's actually a fun, at least a recurring joke I find for Agumon Greymon. I always find it, for some reason, I always brick, so I might even want to boost the consistency a little bit more. I like seeing this because it is 5K, and believe it or not, guys, it doesn't sound big, but with the black tie, if you are breaking and you're trying to draw into pieces, that with the inheritor or with the effect to gain 1,000 DP and be a blocker, a 6K blocker does make your opponent think. And if you have the BT12 Agumon underneath, you'll be sitting at like 7K during your turn or their turn. So basically, it deters early aggression and it kind of forces them to do something with it. And the DP just comes in handy overall. But that's kind of how I look at it. It's a useful card. 3 copies of Greymon X. This is the red one. This one doesn't really need any more discussion. It's protection. It's useful. Pretty much that's it. It's a target for Greymons. It evolves for 2. It's helpful. And then to round it off, I am running the 1 copy of the Greymon X that's limited to 1. This one, pretty much you can't really pass up on it if you're going to be running any of the additional Greymon support. Based solely on the fact that if you're running Metal Greymon from BT12, this is a no-brainer, even if you only see it every so often. It just comes up, and when it does, it really makes a big impact on the game. It can offset your opponent, because a lot of times when they see you have it, the piece is like, oh my goodness. So it really does mess a lot of the game plan up. And I'm actually running a large count of champions. That's 11, I think. Yeah, 4, 8, yeah, 11. Some people told me, or when I was talking about it before, they're wondering why I was playing so many. I just like the higher count because in this deck you brick a lot, and usually it's the middle or end pieces you need, and I'd rather not brick on them at all. So that's just kind of how I view it. So yeah, that's why I'm running 11. I should probably run like about 10 or maybe even cut it down to like 9, but that's just how I view it, I think, and boast more consistency. But that's what it is. So moving into level 5s or ultimates, this is the no-brainer. 3 copies of BT12's Metal Greymon. You're never not playing this, I think, right now, because it's just too good. There's nothing that really does what it does. You gain so much advantage. You get to raid, to get rid of small bodies, or even maybe someone's early stack if you can run it over. And a lot of times you can run it over because of the inheritables of your Agumons and even the Black Tides, which makes it kind of hilarious because sometimes people don't realize that the Metal Greymon will swing for raid, and when it does, if it's big enough, it will run over your Digimon. So that's hilarious. And playing a tamer for free, it's just too good. And the inheritable of piercing does come up a lot more than I used to think. So I'm really just happy I have it and I play it. So yeah, really good. And sharing the spotlight with it is still my 3-1 spread for this list or this line. 3 copies of Greymon X, and the 1 copy of the Alterius mode to go alongside it. Personally, you could play 4 Metal Greymon X if you want. I just like having the Alterius mode because its spot removal has come up a lot more than I thought. Because you can, deal with little floodgate Digimon and pop them off the field. So keep that in mind. Metal Greymon Alterius mode does do that. And since it counts as a Metal Greymon, it will give you an additional free Evo to go into Metal Greymon X just to give you maybe a little bit more protection, but also a little bit more aggression to get into your pieces faster and do the damage. Metal Greymon X doesn't really need any introduction. It's very powerful, gets the job done, gets that DP buff. A lot of times I'll find myself passing on this alone if I have to because I don't have the Metal Greymon. So I'll Digivolve into this with the Black Tide, give it blocker, and then it becomes like a 9k blocker. And if I have any of the Greymon from BT12 or Agumon, we're seeing at like 10 or 11. So it kind of gets annoying for them. And it's kind of funny, but hey, that's just how I like to play it. Personally, guys, you don't have to. You can play whatever you want at the top end. You can even play the other Greymon X, the one that trashes when you unsuspend your Digimon. But I don't have them right now, and after seeing it, it's not like I wouldn't test it. It's more of it's up to you. So figure it out if you want to try it. It's not bad. Moving into the level sixes, this one is an interesting split because I'm running 6 level 6s. It seems a little bit like a lot sometimes, but not really. So we'll start off with the first two. We have Raid War Greymon. Uh, yeah, basically, if you're not running Raid War Greymon, there's a argument to run 4 BT14's War Greymon, but I like Raid War Greymon. It's one of the few that, if you do have the Greymon inheritable with the Security Tech +1, this card is a monster as long as you have Piercing. This card will do at least, at minimum, 2 to 4 checks. If you have the high roll with like Metal Greymon X, or the low roll with like just Tai maybe out, and then you have the Greymon underneath. And even if you don't, 2 checks is still a lot with Piercing because this thing gets really big. It can become a blocker with its reboot ability. It's able to unsuspend when you raid. It just does a lot, and it's really hard to not play it. So keep that in mind, guys. It's really hard to replace. And then going with it is 2 copies of War Greymon from BT14. This card is actually nuts. It power creeps a lot of the other War Greymons, which is kind of sad because I do think that they've lost a little more of their ground because of this one's existence. Because it's able to warp, it does take the advantage of being able to, if you are breaking down and you don't have your champion's ultimates, this is in your hand with a rookie and they decide to have like a 10k or higher. This card goes back and repunishes your opponent. That's really what this is for. I think it's one of the first real like crackback Digimon designed, so that like when you warp into it, your opponent is like about to be punished because this thing will be able to basically have pseudo blitz because it has raid and will be able to attack. So basically, it doesn't matter since it can attack; it will attack anyway. So that's where the advantage happens because you can gain raid but also attack. So it's not like what some people are thinking where you have to raid into something. No, you gain raid, then you may attack. So basically, you get like pseudo blitz. Then when you're attacking, you get the Serial Attack +1 and jamming, and piercing. That's just insane because if you just randomly have out Black Tie and not even the Red Tie, you don't have to worry about those 4 sources. You can just get Security Attack +1 immediately and start doing quick pressure. So that's why I like that. And then for the level sixes, the final two, War Greymon X Antibody. Even if I'm not playing X Antibody, I like to play this because it lets you do more damage as well as facilitating longer plays. Because this is usually when you go for the full X Antibody line, you're probably going to go into War Greymon X Antibody, use its effect to gain memory back from the security checks, and gain your memory back. And you usually have Blitz Omni at that point because if you do have it, you're about to win the game. So yeah, that's the level sixes. Moving into our level sevens and then the rest of the deck, I actually have just the 1 copy of Blitz Omnimon. I tend to find this far more often than I don't. I might want to bump it up to 2. So, like I said, I want to readjust the ratios on this. The reason I was playing 1 was it was either 1 or 0, in my opinion, because I didn't really like the fact that if I ran 2 and I opened 2, or one happened to, or both happened to be something that I drew into and couldn't use it, I didn't like it, but I'm finding out more often that I like the fact that it is at 1, but I'd rather have the second option in case it's in security. Because I don't like board states where you end up with just having the Omnimon out, or you have the Omnimon drawn, or you know it's in your deck and you kind of want it to finish the game, but you can't see it because there's only one, and then by the time you realize it after getting checked a couple times, you find insecurity, and it's kind of annoying. But yeah, that's why I'm thinking I might bump this to 2, but I really like it at 1, so more testing's needed, but I really like this at 1. Moving into some of the, actually, let me move into tamers before options because they might be changed around. So I'm actually running 5 tamers. I was used to run 6, but I cut down on the Yuyas, so we're just doing straight ties here, and that's going to be starting with 3 copies of the BT12 tie Chimea. There's a debate to run this at 4, really. I personally like it at 3 because if I run 4 and I can't draw into pieces and I keep drawing them, the problem is with the ties, one of the balance that they have is that they don't do anything. They're not searchers. So you draw them, and even if you have them, if you can't play them for free, which you do usually off of like maybe the Greymon from BT12, you're not doing much. And if you don't have Metal Greymon, you're not really going to be using them. So in the early game, if you draw more than like 2 or 3 Tamers, it's not good. Because even with Tamer setup, what can you do if you can't Digivolve? So that's what makes this one not too good, but that's like a minor thing. Getting the memory back every time you Digivolve, giving blocker and 1k DP at the start of every turn and on play makes this card very useful. Honestly, it's the one thing that makes this deck better is that you can switch your red deck into a defensive style with this card because you're now able to give your Digimon that normally wouldn't have blocker, you give them the blocker, you give them that extra DP. Now they become a problem for your opponent because with Greymon decks, usually if it's the red base, you could swing through most of their security unless they're running some like funky options because they're not usually running anything. You usually only worry about like X antibody and maybe Crimson Blaze if they have it or something like that, but usually you can get past it and maybe even Hades Force. But in this case, this allows your opponent to have to deal with your board, or you use your rookies you played out that maybe you don't want to evolve on, you let them become a problem. So that's how we do that. And next we have the last 2 Tamers I'm playing, just 2 of the memory fixing ties from all the way from BT1. So effectively, you don't. This is an argument for a lot of people. I don't think you don't play this at all. This is a really good card. Because this deck is still a stack deck, it doesn't change, and you are almost always going to be able to proc that extra security attack +1. I think the one you want to play for free is this tie because once you play it down, you're always going to have advantage going forward because the moment it hits the field, it basically tells your opponent that that's an additional check as long as they're not playing some source strip deck. So they're going to get punished. So keeping that in mind, I really like this ratio for these. I used to play Yuya. Debatable to bring him back into the deck. The biggest problem I have with Yuya is that a lot of time I'd be bottom decking him because the Agumon from BT12 doesn't grab ties, and even if I saw it off of like the training boost, I'd have to bottom deck it. Bottom decking a black tie in this deck isn't that bad because I'm playing 3 of them, so it's not like I'm worried about seeing it and losing it because I know there's a better option for me to gain it. It's just more of it feels worse to bottom deck the Yuya because it's probably not going to do anything in the game, and then it's just one more card that if I end up drawing it and don't see the setup for Raid War or Metal Greymon, I'm not going to be using it. So just putting it out there, guys. That's why I was playing that number. You could buff up any of those numbers. I wanted to build a list around the new BT14 tie Chimea, but it just doesn't fit into this list, I think, because you'll be like trashing cards off the top of your opponent's security, and you'll gain those memories back and get that 2K. But I think there's better builds of a different Greymon to focus on that tie because it's really useful. I just don't think in a super aggro version that's what you need because it doesn't offer anything except DP, and we've got that covered for the most part. And finishing off with our options, 4 copies of Training Boost. When I made that video for you guys about it, offense obviously is one of the ones that I said to pick up because offense and mental are going to be the most focused ones because most cards are red and blue. So yeah, that's the biggest reason. Delay, you get the 2 reduced evolution costs. I really am enjoying using offense because it really does let you do like choking your opponent back. So if they only give you 1 memory, you can choke them back with this. And if they don't set up a Floodgate rookie to deal with it, they're now going to be in trouble because they now realize that that's an additional free evolution. A lot of times it fixes the biggest problem with Greymon X from BT11, where you would have to sometimes Digivolve your Agumon into it for 3 and it hurt. This at least makes it a 1-cost Evo, and honestly, it's worth dropping it because the moment you do that, if you have Metal Greymon in hand, your opponent's about to get punished because you're about to just Evo for basically 2 memory into an ultimate, and that's really good. Like, thanks to the new War Greymon, that's one of the biggest pluses about it, is that you are able to attack. That's one of the things I think was a problem for the top end, is that the only blitzing Digimon really was like the Omnimon, unless you made room for X antibody. So yeah, And then finally, I'm running off with one copy of Crimson Blaze. I just like running it because there's times where your opponent might go wide on you if you're not getting your pieces, because they know that this deck has a big problem with longevity. So if they go wide, they know usually you can't deal with multiple Digimon, which I was finding as a funny thing. However, I found that Crimson Blaze is a really good way to do it because most people are going to go wide. They're going to go with rookies, sometimes champions, but not really because there's not many decks that can play low cost champions. And they're going to be focusing more on trying to like get you almost like suffocated in a way. Like they want to surround you so that you can't do anything, and then they'll just whack your security all at once. It's almost like Rookie Rush, but Crimson Blaze can deal with it. Also, Crimson Blaze ability to stop them from playing effects, like playing Digimon off of effects for their turn until the end of the turn, is really useful as long as you drop it on them. It's reducing its cost is phenomenal because depending on how big their board is, if you have this in your hand and never use it, that's completely fine. It's more of you have the option to use it if you need to. And that's kind of the reason why I like this so much. I don't think I would get rid of it yet. I think maybe I'd have to think because I think this could become a Hades Force if you want. It's really up to you. So pretty much that's it for that. Some of the inclusions I was thinking about making going forward was maybe reworking the champion number and the rookie number. So maybe going to like 13 rookies and maybe the 9 or 10 champions, and then adding in maybe two more either red memory boost or something like along those lines. Here's the thing, I still think the memory boosts are good. The one thing I don't like about this deck, I'm still having the same trouble I had before, was that you're still like lacking consistency, which is really weird. So this deck really wants to focus on raising in the back and then not really promoting a stack until it's ready to go. So yeah, it's just one of the issues I have with the deck still. But in the end, I think I'll figure out that issue in time. It's just going to be a minute. And yeah, I'll have more to show you guys. Different lists too, because I've been working on some different brews of the Agumon decks and seeing what you guys think. But as of course, guys, I hope you enjoyed. This is what I'm working with. I hope it gives you a little bit of insight on how you could build something. And ultimately, guys, this is Brad from the Ad Army signing off. And for all of you out there, to sign on.